All right, what's up, everybody? We are back here again for week number 16 of Pete's Power Rankings. Yes, I'm ranking 99% of all these games. I'm taking notes, keeping tabs, ranking all 32 teams, 1 through 32. The holidays are upon us. We are deep into the NFL season now, and it was an excellent weekend of football. It feels like there are games on every day this past week, and they're going to be on every day this upcoming week. And it feels like some of the teams have really separated themselves from the rest of the pack amongst the top of this league. A lot of chaos in the middle and a lot of cementing of awful teams in that sweepstakes for Caleb Williams. But let's just hop right into it. But remember, these are power rankings, not the standings. Let's get into it. Our bottom tier teams 32 through 23. All right, I'm putting the Chargers at the bottom, new team at the bottom. You give up 63 points to the Raiders. You quit on your coach. You just melt down as a team. You're on the bottom of the list. Carolina, nice win, 45-cent tickets, getting a dub in the rain. Bryce Young looked kind of like a decent quarterback in bad situation. They get the job done. Commanders, okay. Jacoby Brissett, new starting quarterback. Rowboat Ron's going to be out of there. New England, they kind of hung around with Kansas City, but they're trying to lose. It's very obvious Belichick's taking for that pick. The Jets, what a disaster. Zach Wilson hurt, bench, whatever. But Aaron Rodgers might be coming back, but they're officially eliminated from the playoffs. But maybe we'll see Rodgers. Doubtful. Vegas, congratulations. You get shut out 1 week, and then 4 days later, you score 63 points. Kind of a crazy world we live in. Pittsburgh, they bench Mitchell Trubisky. Finally, they get smacked by Indy after going up 13-0. Mason Rudolph, good luck. No Kenny Pickett still. A team that looked like they were destined for the postseason is having a monumental collapse. Arizona kind of got blown out on the scoreboard against San Francisco. Thought they played kind of decent. Ran the ball super well against that team. Kyler took a shot, but I think he'll be okay. He'll be back in there, a little below the belt stuff. But I really didn't hate how Arizona looked. They're just not a very good football team, but they play hard, and they're doing a lot with a little. Atlanta, one of the worst losses of the season, had all the playoff hopes in front of them. We're in control of the division of the NFC South, and they're just laying egg after egg. Desmond Ridder is the worst red zone quarterback in the history of the NFL, and the Tennessee Titans should have won that game against a really beat-up Houston team. Let it go. Avoid disaster with Will Levis taking a really nasty roll-up at the end of overtime there, but maybe he'll play this week. They're not really playing for much, but I've liked what I've seen from Levis the last few weeks. But all right, let's get into our middle-tier teams now, teams 22 through 16. Giants, the DeVito mania kind of runs out of gas, get smacked around in New Orleans. Chicago threw away their chance at the playoffs, had the game won against Cleveland, let them come back, and then drop the Hail Mary at the end of the game in the guy's lap. Heartbreaking. Green Bay, maybe the worst loss of a competitive team this season. They get bullied by Tampa Bay in Green Bay, essentially ending their playoff hopes. They're going to need a lot of help now. New Orleans still alive. Nice win against the Giants. Carr seems to be getting better, but man, I feel like I don't know how any of his teammates kind of put up with him. The defense is locking back in. Huge game Thursday night against the Rams. Must win kind of for them. They got to play Tampa still. It's kind of a tough spot, but New Orleans is still alive. Probably going to have to get to 10 wins to get in. They got a shot. Denver, their season's over. Sean Payton blown out. He wants to kill Russell Wilson, it looks like. The defense back to what the defense was to start this season. The offense kind of back to not doing enough. Nothing seemed to go right for the Broncos. And the season's over. Sean Payton wants a new quarterback. I don't know how they're going to get rid of Russell, but I bet they get rid of Russell. Indy, maybe my most controversial ranking. I just don't see it with the Colts. Look, Colts are 8-4. Colts are going to probably win out. The Colts are going to make the playoffs. But I just really don't see it when I watch this team. They're really good in late game situations. I will give them that. They're good in close games. But the third softest strength of schedule, they're average across the board in everything essentially. Their defense is bad at giving up points. Their offense is decent at scoring points. They do get some sacks, but pretty bad everywhere else. The run game has really fallen off since losing Jonathan Taylor to the IR. Minshew's all right. Their wide receivers are underrated. I just don't see it with the Colts, but they win in games. They benefit with a soft schedule, so they're probably going to get in the playoffs in a season that they have absolutely no playoff hopes, it feels like. And do we have a quarterback controversy? Anthony Richardson gets hurt constantly. Rookie kid. Gardner Minshew leads them to the playoffs. I don't know, man. Kind of weird. And then 16, my Vikings just threw away the playoffs against the Bengals. Had that game won. Can't run the quarterback sneak. defense, this Brian Flores defense, who was lights out pitching shutouts against the Raiders, only 12 against the Broncos, give up 21 points in the fourth quarter and the field goal in overtime. They couldn't get off the field. They couldn't get a stop. But on the other hand, the offense looked really good with Jefferson back, Jordan Addison with a monster day, rookie running back Ty Chandler, first 100-yard game for a Viking in like a year plus, just kind of incredible. But they do control their own destiny. They played Detroit twice and Green Bay in between there with two of those at home. They went out. They're in the postseason. In fact, they're probably division champs if they went out, but I think it's going to be a tall, tall task for them. But let's go to it. What everybody came here for, my top 15 teams. Okay, number 15, I'm going to put the Seahawks back in the top 15. A massive, massive win at home on Monday night against the Eagles. And this was a game that they got completely dominated in. It never felt like they were really in this game whatsoever. They effectively ran the ball against the number one ranked rushing defense with Kenneth Walker. Drew Lock stepping in again, kind of last second, was a little unsure. He practiced all week. Geno looked like he was going to start. He doesn't go, and he makes two excellent throws on the final drive of the game to go win that game, gets the touchdown, and you just let them hang around. Seahawks defense, really good job shutting down the Eagles offense. I know they've been struggling, but they did a really good job containing them. They took away the big plays, had a huge interception in the end zone, might have got away with the pass interference there, but they still made the plays when they had to. All in front of the Seahawks now, a very soft schedule coming up. If they win out, they will be in the postseason. Now, knowing Seattle, they could screw this thing up. Geno comes back in and starts. He's not quite healthy, and it all falls to shit in Tennessee. It could definitely happen, but I do like the way the Seahawks are trending. They running the ball again. This is the key. Run the ball. Get the ball to your playmakers. You have DK. You have Tyler Lockett. JSN with the game winner tonight. There's so many weapons on this team. They just got to find a way to get them the ball and run the ball effectively. Defense, they held up, man. They've been bad these last few weeks. It's been a gauntlet of a schedule. They managed to avoid getting swept by like San Francisco twice, Dallas, like all the best teams in the league they're playing. They managed to avoid the sweep, and it sets them up nicely. Do I think there's a very limited ceiling to this team? Absolutely. Do I think that this is the positive direction for a franchise? You betcha. So good on Seattle, number 15. Okay, up 4 spots, number 14, Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A huge win for the Bucs after going to Atlanta, throwing a game-winning touchdown on the road. What does Baker come do? Comes back and has the first perfect quarterback rating as a road quarterback in Lambeau Field, slicing and dicing the Green Bay Packers defense, who gave up 200 yards rushing the week before. They get shredded for nearly 400 yards through the air. He throws 4 touchdown passes. Chris Godwin, welcome back, $150, huge game from him. Mike Evans catching the touchdown, he's involved. Rachaad White, I've been a fan of Rachaad White all year. They've just played some really tough run defenses. He made some big plays, a huge touchdown for him. And Baker money maker, when you write him off, he is clutch. And I bet you the Browns are killing themselves now that they traded for Deshaun Watson. All they had to do was just keep Baker healthy, pay him. The fans loved him. He liked being in Cleveland. He likes that underdog mentality. But their loss is Tampa's game. And Tampa, I feel like Tampa's going to get in the playoffs now. Now, the schedule isn't great. They got to play the Jags this week in Tampa. The Jags are reeling, but that's a good football team most weekends. And then they got to play the Saints, which is probably going to be for the division. That's the game you have to win. That's the big boy game. That's the spot for them. Now we're starting to believe in Baker. Maybe he falls off a cliff because that's what Baker's kind of done his entire career. But maybe, just maybe, he's got the full underdog chip locked in. This is a passing defense that's been horrible. It's getting better. They had a really good run defense for most of the season. So Todd Bowles starting to figure some things out. The offense is humming. I didn't think this would be the team this year in the NFC South, but good on Tampa Bay. Going to host a playoff game if they can just take care of business the next few weeks. Okay, I dropped the Texans a spot just because of the way things happened there. But man, what an incredible win for the Texans. It's in division. It's against a Titans team who just had a huge win against the Dolphins. Not the best team in the world, but they were dead and buried, it felt like, in this game. No CJ Stroud, No Tank Dell for the rest of the season. Nico Collins out. It felt like they had nothing. In steps Case Keenum. Case Keenum, a guy who's had a career as a backup and one magical season as a starter, but he still had a little bit of magic left. Comes back in, gets the game to overtime. He goes and wins the game in overtime with a huge connection to Devin Singletary to set up the long field goal. And look, this has got to be the coach of the year candidate in D'Amico Ryans if they can get into the playoffs. It is kind of a big if. The schedule isn't the worst for the Texans. They do got to go to Indianapolis week 18 to finish this thing out. So there's your shot. Got Cleveland at home this week, but hopefully CJ Stroud's coming back. Just an incredible job and an incredible effort all around from this team. It's not supposed to be this good. We projected they would be good late, but they're so much better than we thought. And it was just a gritty, grindy win. It was not pretty at all. Not a pretty win, but they don't have to all be pretty when you are so undermanned. Backup quarterback, third, fourth receivers are now your top guys. Dalton Schultz had to step back in there and help. And the defense did a good job in the second half of this game, kind of letting the offense get back into it. I don't know what the limit is for this Texans team. It's not very high. Do I think they're even going to get into the playoffs? Probably not, but man, this is a team week in and week out you really don't want to play. They get rid of the stinker that they had 2 weeks ago against the Jets. I'm really, really impressed with the overall job of this Texans team. So Texans here at 13. Okay, down to number 12, I got the Jacksonville Jaguars. They are hemorrhaging right now, losers of 3 in a row. It's not looking good for Jacksonville, man. They were cruising along, 8-3 on the season, look like sunshines and rainbows. They dropped 3 in a row. They're 8-6. They're in a 3-way tie for the division. They do have the tiebreakers, though, so they're in really good shape when it comes to that. They're going to need some teams to kind of falter. They're going to have to falter, but hey, they got to go to Tampa Bay this week. It's not an easy game for them. They got to keep winning football games. I just don't understand this team. The numbers were kind of always kind of mad for this team, and I didn't fully want to embrace the team. I watched them, and I've talked about it week in, week out. Are the Jaguars good on offense? I think so. Are the Jaguars good on defense? I think so. And they really just haven't been that. There's something up with Trevor Lawrence, man. He's maybe not as good of a quarterback as we thought he was coming out. He's definitely a franchise guy, but the mistakes he makes, the reads there, it's just not it. I've heard a story this past few weeks that was a big concern about his evaluations. His recall ability is not as good as these elite tier quarterbacks that we see. Ability to remember plays, random downs and distances in random games. These guys are like savants out there. You can pull them out. Good quarterbacks. And Trevor just kind of didn't have that. Didn't play in a super complex offense. It's not like he's playing in a super complex offense now in Jacksonville under Doug Peterson, but yeah, just mistake after mistake. And they felt like they dominated large chunks against Baltimore, but 2 missed field goals, a fumble where nobody hits you inside the 20, just dropping the football, the inexplicable throw at the end of the half, throwing that ball in bounds. I have no idea what he's doing. And the defense, they did a decent job against Lamar and the Ravens, but they're just super inconsistent. All in all, I think this is a really troubling sign for the Jags. They are probably going to win this division. They are probably going to get a home game, but I don't think they're going to be favored against any of the wildcard teams coming out like Cleveland, Cincinnati. I don't think they got a shot against any of those teams right now. They got to course correct. There's 3 weeks left. I would be concerned if I was a Jags fan. All right, the Bengals at 11, the year of the backup quarterback, even though we haven't started in a normal amount of backup quarterbacks, it just feels like we have. Jake Browning and the Cincinnati Bengals are on a run right now, flaming hot after losing Joe Burrow for the season in what had been an up and down season already. I don't know how this team figured to turn it around with Browning. His high completion percentage, his safe checkdowns, kind of tailoring the offense towards him, reestablishing the run game. They did a really good job. The defense has been terrible for most of the season. Sweet Lou has turned it around. They're playing awesome, but they found themselves in a massive hole. But somehow, some way, through some Jake Browning magic, 21 in the fourth quarter, tie the game, go and win it in overtime. It's just Jake Browning just kind of has that feel, making plays, whatever the situation is. He's going to make the play. His receivers are going to get the ball. Maybe it's them making the play, but he's going to put it in the right spot for them. Now, they did lose Jamar Chase to his shoulder separation. He's going to be out a few weeks, maybe the rest of the regular season. And it's a tall task. This AFC playoff is really stacked up in there. It's not going to be easy for the Bengals. Not going to be easy. They got Cleveland the final week of the season. That could be the game that they're going to decide if they're in or out in the playoffs. But right now, they're one of the best teams in the league right now, playing-wise. They're winning close games. They're grinding things out. The defense is turning it up. They have a balanced offensive attack. And if T. Higgins is going to play like he did while Jamar Chase is out the rest of the season, I think the Bengals have a real legit shot to get into the postseason and make some noise, maybe get an upset and send one of those home teams packing. Do I think they can make a Super Bowl? No, but this is a playoff-tested team, and you don't want to face playoff-tested teams in the playoffs. So Bengals here at number 11. Okay, number 10, your LA Rams. Speaking of teams that maybe won't get into the playoffs, maybe will, and nobody, and I mean nobody wants to face, it's the LA Rams, man. They are smoking hot right now. 4 of their last 5. They're only lost to the Ravens in overtime in Baltimore in a game that they probably feel like they should have won. Look, if you can protect Matthew Stafford, he's still got the gunslinger in him. Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, top wide receiver duo in the NFL, maybe. They are playing lights out right now. Cooper Kupp looking like his older self, getting healthy, getting better, and Puka Nacua getting better every week as a rookie. But the huge thing is they can finally run the football again. Kyren Williams missing a large chunk in the middle there. That's when they struggled. He comes back. They've been lights out offensively again. He's 100+ scrimmage yards every single week, getting multiple touchdowns. He just changes the entire dynamic of the offense, slows down that pass rush, and Matt Stafford, Sean McVay can draw it up with the best of them in the passing game. This is a hell of a coaching job by McVay, maybe another Coach of the Year candidate, because he doesn't have a super talented team, and they're winning a lot of football games. Now, the defense is the biggest concern for this team. Gave up a couple of late scores against the Commanders to kind of let them have an onside kick chance, but they were good enough for most of the game. They're just not very talented. Aaron Donald's still out there. The man very clearly looks like he was thinking about retirement. He's just not that Aaron Donald we've known for his career that just completely destroys games. You'll get it every now and again, but it's just not the down after down after down of making your life hell. And the secondary, it's kind of whatever on the back end. I don't know if I would trust the Rams down the stretch in the postseason to go far, but I definitely trust them to go on a winning stretch here. Their toughest game is San Francisco the last week, but Frisco may have the bye locked up, and maybe Kyle Shanahan throws his old buddy McVay a solid and gets them in the playoffs, even though San Francisco likes to dominate the Rams. But if they get in, do you really want to play this team if you're the Detroit Lions? I sure as hell wouldn't. I don't want Stafford coming back into my building. Philadelphia, you're playing awful. Dallas, maybe Dallas is okay with playing the Rams because they can get after Stafford, but this is the last wildcard team I'd want to see in the NFC. Rams at 10. Okay, number 9, I got the Browns here at 9. This game, this season, looked like it was slipping away from the Browns. They turned to Joe Flacco, and he's been a revelation. Joe Flacco looking like a young man, but he was looking too much like a young man this past weekend. He was just throwing up whatever. Pick 6, almost pick 6, just back-breaking interceptions. The defense did the best they could, but when the chips were down, it was all stacked against him. Joe Flacco went out there, got 13 points, went and got them the win in incredible fashion. Defense almost screwed it up, but look, it's very clear Cleveland just needs a competent guy at quarterback. They had yet to get a competent guy at quarterback. They can throw the ball. David Njoku's his favorite target, huge plays. Now, if Flacco can cut down on the interceptions, maybe he got a little too crazy with all the noise signing the new contract. This is a dangerous Browns team, another wild card team. Absolutely no one is going to want to see. Myles Garrett, your defensive player of the year. It's just play in, play out. He's killing somebody, it looks like. It's just unbelievable what he's on this year. The secondary's awesome for the Browns. They lock down receivers. They do a really good job of playing complementary football. Want to see a little bit more effectiveness out of the run game, but geez, no Nick Chubb. What can you expect? If this team had Joe Flacco and Nick Chubb, I would be pinning the Browns here as a serious Super Bowl threat out of the wild card spot. But for right now, the Brownies are probably going to get in. Schedule's not very tough. And who the hell wants to play the Browns in the postseason? Okay, I got the Dolphins still here at number 8. Look, we kind of know what Miami is. No Tyreek Hill, but no problem this week. They played a good Jets secondary, but I think the Jets have just kind of folded, part because the defense was killing, absolutely destroying this Jets offense. The Jets had like negative yards for the entire first half. They couldn't do anything. Trevor Siemian, God bless him, but there's not anything going on with this Jets team. But we know the limits of this Dolphins team. They haven't really beaten anybody good. They don't have quality wins. And I would kind of get worried now. They have Dallas coming to town this week. Dallas and the Dolphins, very similar teams, really good at home, really kind of bad on the road against physical teams, offense dependent. I don't know. It's a very interesting matchup. They have to have Tyreek Hill back for them to really have a shot against Dallas, I think, because he is a problem. Waddle had a solid game. It was really nice to see that. And Raheem Mostert, touchdown monster, 20 touchdowns on the season. Unbelievable. But Miami's kind of another team that's like, I'm going to have to see you beat a good team. I'm going to have to see you beat a good team on the road. Now, they do have a shot at the bye, kind of, not really. It's really in the Ravens' hands at this point. But if Miami beats Dallas, beats Buffalo the last week of the season, I'll start really believing in the Dolphins. But until then, Dolphins here at number 8. Okay, there feels like there's not much of a gap between teams 8 through 3, and they kind of all have their flaws, kind of all feel similar. Detroit here at number 7. Look, big bounce back spot. We knew that this was a good bounce back spot for them. Coming back home, Jared Goff at home lights it up. They get Jahmyr Gibbs going. They can pound the football. And Amon-Ra St. Brown is a dog. We know that. The biggest concern is this team's defense. They're not a very good defensive unit. They've been carved up the last few weeks. The secondary's bad. They don't get to the quarterbacks. Aiden Hutchinson, when he's the only guy that can really generate a pass rush, teams know how to take care of him. He ain't that game wrecker kind of guy. If he's got other help across the line, he's as good of a pass rusher as you'll need. But right now, they're really undermanned on defense, so they're going to have to lean on their offense. Good news for Detroit. We talked about this. They don't play a road game the rest of the season. Minnesota this week, at Dallas. Minnesota to finish up the season. Minnesota loss, they're going to lock up their first division title, most likely for the first time in 30 years. Whether it's this week, whether it's next week, whether it's the final week, it's really going to take a monumental collapse for this Lions team to fall out of a home playoff game. But you're going to get a home playoff game, and like I said, you're going to get Matt Stafford. I hate that matchup for them. This team is growing. It's a young team. It's a good offensive line, good coaching staff all around. I just feel like it was a very big missed opportunity to really go for it this year. The NFC feels super winnable outside of the San Francisco 49ers, but trading away a little bit of your future for making a shot at the NFC title game. And honestly, if they'd made that move, they probably would have had the 1 seed. Their schedule was very conducive to getting 13, 14 wins and having that 1 seed throughout. And playing in Detroit, playing indoors, it's a different football team. But Lions here at number 7. Okay, number 6. I took the bait. I knew I shouldn't have taken the bait. I debated taking the bait, and we all took the bait. It's the Dallas Cowboys. I guess it's the same old Cowboys, man. Come off a big win against the Eagles, an Eagles team that's reeling right now, but you're feeling good. You have a shot, and it's a huge, huge test on the road against a smoking hot Buffalo Bills team right now, and you get boat raced. I mean, just absolutely pathetic performance from the Cowboys, and it makes you say, same old Cowboys. Look, Dak was really not good in this game. The offense was horrible. It's the best offense in football, 40 points a game at home. They're averaging like 20 points a game on the road. It's a different team. And he looked a little overwhelmed by the moment. It was not clean. It was not sharp. He had 4 or 5 balls that should have been intercepted. Very uncharacteristic of him this year. They really couldn't get the running game going. Most of their big plays in the first half were Dak making a run, getting a late hit, getting the penalty, but just mistakes constantly. The defense gets killed. I mean, Josh Allen didn't throw the ball at all this game, but he didn't have to. 42 carries for the Buffalo Bills. They jammed it down their throat, and it was just kind of what we've seen from this Cowboys team on the road against good teams. They don't win these games. Mike McCarthy looked like he brought out the same game plan he had for the Philadelphia Eagles against the Buffalo Bills. Can't do that. Now, there are plenty of more opportunities for the Cowboys to prove themselves. On the road in Miami, kind of a similar team. Go win that game. At home against the Detroit Lions, go win that game. Commanders, the final game of the season, go win that game. And you have a shot at winning this NFC East. And you need it. You honestly need it. You got to play home games if you're Dallas. It's just so stark, the difference between home and away. But I wouldn't fear anybody else in the NFC, besides obviously the 49ers, who beat the crap out of you and have beaten you the past 2 seasons. So, Cowboys, we all took the bait. We all fall for it here at 6. Okay, another team that is hemorrhaging right now, the Philadelphia Eagles. Like I said, teams 5 through 8 kind of all feel the same, but I had to rank them. Had to do it. Philly's got the best wins of any of these teams with KC and Buffalo. I had to do it. It's just, I don't get it. They let Seattle hang around in this game. They dominated the entire first half of this game. They were in control of this game. They were pounding the rock. Jalen Hurts under the weather, making plays, but then it's just a total collapse in the second half. Poor decision making with the football. They can't run the ball. The defense, this number 1 run defense, gets gashed by the Seahawks, a team who had been struggling to really get anything going on the ground the last few weeks, gets absolutely hammered. They can't stop anybody in the secondary when they have to. Matt Patricia takes over the defense, and you give up a 92-yard with under 2 minutes to Drew Lock to lose the game. Really, really concerning in Philadelphia, but schedule's their favor. Giants twice, Arizona in Philly. So it's a very favorable schedule for them. If they win out, they will win the NFC East due to strength of victory tiebreaker, which is a bizarre tiebreaker, by the way, that we're going to see because they got the better wins than Dallas does. I don't know. I'd be panicking if I was Philly. We kind of always felt that their record was better than the team was, but this is just a really, really bad 3 weeks from Philadelphia. And it's time to be concerned. This is not the same football team that it was last year. More turnovers than they had all of last season already for them. Hopefully they can figure it out for 3 weeks if you're an Eagles fan. Otherwise, I just don't see how they're going to be able to compete in the NFC. Okay, this is insane. I'm going out on a limb here. I went out on a limb last week with this team, but Buffalo, Buffalo, Buffalo. This has got to be the most frustrating team to be a fan of. The Bills have a good shot of not even making the playoffs, but right now I think they're the 4th best team in this league. We saw what the Bills could have been all season. I know they're beat up on defense. They still filled in power football, smash mouth. They actually are running the ball. They fire offensive coordinator Ken Dorsey, and look, they use James Cook. James Cook's a good running back. You take pressure off your quarterback. Josh Allen didn't have to throw the ball this weekend, and he's a guy who just makes plays at the quarterback position. They've taken a lot off him. What's really going to kill this team is throwing away that game against Philadelphia in overtime, and that one was on the defense. The offense scored a shit ton of points. They thought they got themselves the lead, and ultimately that's probably what's going to cost this team. They're playing such good ball right now. They could go run the table. Got to finish the season at Miami, who they did beat pretty comfortably in Buffalo early in the season. But without that, the Bills are really going to need some help to get into the playoffs. I don't think they're going to get in. It's kind of crazy. It's going to be like that 2010 Chargers team, number 1 ranked offense, number 1 ranked defense, didn't make the postseason because of how bad their special teams are. And it's going to be the same with this Bills. Lots of blunders down late, just inexcusable losses. But if the Bills can find their way into the playoffs, this is clearly one of the most dangerous teams in the AFC. They have something figured out on offense. It's, can the defense hold up? Can they be consistent? Can they cut down on the turnovers? Buffalo here at number 4, probably not even in the postseason. Okay, number 3, I'm going to put Kansas City here. Look, we know it's just like not the Kansas City of old. But Patrick Mahomes is still a quarterback, and he's finally losing it. Kadarius Toney. I've been calling for it all season. Cut this man. Cut this man. Did somebody pay him to make the Chiefs work worse? Is Patrick Mahomes just trying to play on expert mode because the rest of the NFL was too easy for him? Because good God, every week, this guy makes a bonehead ass play to try and lose the Chiefs the game. Defense did a decent job. It's the Patriots offense. It is whatever. I love getting Rashee Rice involved more. He's a nice wide receiver. He's the only guy that feels like he can do anything. Kelsey, kind of old, kind of getting double teamed, can't really do much. I think teams are really just taking him away and forcing everybody to do it. No Pacheco again. Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Jerick McKinnon. Nice game from your two backs. Really need to get Pacheco back to help round this thing out. It's not the same Chiefs team. It's not nearly as good of a Chiefs team. But when you have the best quarterback in the league, best quarterback in the world, I'm always going to really lean on your side. It's kind of like the Tom Brady thing. I'm going to have to really see it to believe it. And everybody else just kind of feels super flawed right now besides our top two teams. Okay, number 2, I got Baltimore here at number 2. Look, Ravens, man, you control your own destiny. Kind of a really weird game against Jacksonville. Like I said, it felt like Jacksonville dominated that first half, controlled that, but they made the 4 bonehead plays in the first half. Ravens did what they had to. Much better second half from the Ravens. My biggest concern overall, though, is the passing game with the wide receivers. Isaiah Likely filling in very nicely for Mark Andrews. We know Lamar can throw to his tight ends. Lamar makes plays with his legs. He scrambles around. He breaks free. He hits his guys. But I just need to see more out of this passing game for the wide receivers. Essentially nothing to his wide receiver core this weekend. And they were a little slow on offense. Now they do lose Keaton Mitchell to the season with an ACL tear. That's a killer. That's their home run hitting running back. That man is as fast as they come in this league. So that's really going to hurt them with the balanced running attack. They like to hit him with the power, hit him with the speed, keeps you guessing. All in all, Lamar's numbers aren't going to be good, but Lamar just kind of finds a way to make the play. You got 3 downs to stop him, and it just feels like most teams can't stop him. Now, the key to this team is their defense. Their front 7 is lights out for the Ravens. I thought they were going to kind of let Jacksonville back in that game. Maybe the Jacksonville should have been in that game. Calvin Ridley maybe was probably inbounds on that last touchdown, but they didn't call it a touchdown. Jags get the stop, seal out the game. I mean, the Ravens get the stop, seal out the game against the Jags. My biggest concern is we've seen this defense fold a few times when push comes to shove against better offenses down the stretch. Are we going to see that in the playoffs? I don't know. Is it very important that the Ravens have home playoff games? Absolutely. The biggest question with this team's future, because I think they're the best team in the AFC, is Lamar. Lamar, 97 quarterback rating in the regular season, 64 rating in the playoffs. He's like 1-3 in the playoffs. Hasn't thrown a touchdown pass in the playoffs in like 4 years. It will be when he throws a touchdown pass in this postseason. If he throws a touchdown, I'm assuming Lamar's going to throw a touchdown pass. It'll be 4 years for them. He has 1 win. It's on the road against a bad Tennessee team. We have to see it. That's the biggest question mark. It's always going to be the biggest question mark. We got to see it to believe it. Baltimore, clearly, I think the best team in the AFC, should have their 1 seed. I think they're going to be good enough to lean on their defense to get them to the Super Bowl. But ultimately, it's going to come down to, can Lamar be that dude? And finally, number 1, the San Francisco 49ers. I don't think there's any question in anybody's mind who the best team in the league is. It's the 49ers. This team is just unstoppable. We talk about it every single week. Brock Purdy, now your MVP favorite. We're not even sure he's the MVP of his team, but it is what it is with that award. Christian McCaffrey, the best running back in the NFL. Tebow Samuel, the best Swiss Army knife in the NFL. George Kittle, a top 5 tight end. Brandon Ayuk, as good of a receiver as you're going to find out there to be that guy that just like makes plays, isn't a super flashy wide receiver, gets gritty, gets open, catches the football, scores touchdowns. And this defense, this season changed for the 49ers when they traded for Chase Young. They've been able to get a lot more pressure on the quarterbacks. It's really helped out their back end, which is the weakest part of this defense. They're making plays, a pick 6 this weekend. We know how good their linebackers are with Fred Warner leading the way with them. This is the most complete team in football. They're a juggernaut, it feels like. And we have the absolute rare meeting this weekend between our top team in the NFC, our top team in the AFC, 1 and 2 on my power rankings, 49ers at Ravens on Christmas. It's a treat for all of us. I'm very interested to see this game. If Frisco goes into Baltimore and blows out this Ravens team, the only thing that can stop the 49ers is injuries. Injuries. Now, do we trust they're going to stay healthy? Maybe you don't. But right now, If this team is healthy, I just think there's nothing stopping this train. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Who am I too high on? Who am I too low on? Come and let me hear it about the Colts. How about the Bills? Am I way too high on them? What are we doing with the Eagles, Cowboys, Lions, and Dolphins? Can we trust any of them? Kansas City, God bless us. Are the sleeper wildcard teams ready to go on a run? I'm talking Cleveland. I'm talking the Rams. How about those Bengals? Any of those teams ready to make a deep run? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you haven't already, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. We got new sports content every single day. If you want to help support me more, lets me keep making the great content for you guys every single day. Click that join button, subscribe to a membership, helps me out a lot. You get access to early content, exclusive content, badges with the channel, emojis you use during live streams throughout the season. Really helps me out a lot. Like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you tomorrow.